So I just did a drawing on my iPad of a package that I got from eBay a couple days ago that contained 4 51s. And they were random 51s. I know you see 5 here. I know I can count, but one of these is one that I had before. And the one that I had before is kind of this one. I had one that said Grace M. Betternitz's name on it. And I didn't particularly like, there's nothing wrong with Grace. I'm sure she's a lovely lady. But it wasn't so much that I liked the name or the engraving or whatever, but it had a nib that I kind of liked, and I used red ink in it. It's a burgundy pen. I used red ink in it, and it sort of fit, and I used it some more and put it in my drawer. Every once in a while I'd bring it out to try to sell to someone, and they either didn't like the name or they didn't like the nib or whatever. So it always ended up in my collection. So these days I tend to really like Aerometrics because I know that I don't ever have to repair them. If I sell one, if I sell a Vacuumatic, chances are some point down the road, I'm going to have to repair it. And I don't have the parts anymore to do that. So Aerometrics are the ones that I prefer to sell and to drop. So anyway, I'm going to put the pens back the way that they came. The 4 pens that I bought back the way they came here to show you what I got. Okay, so here they are. One of them I was surprised to learn was a Vacuumatic fill. Now, it's not always common to find a Vacuumatic cap and or barrel and blind cap that are so invisible as this one was. I thought, why isn't it unscrewing? Well, I was trying to unscrew here, and it was here that unscrewed. So this has not been repaired, but I'll pretend it has been just for the moment. So these are the 4 pens that I bought, and they came in this box, which I ripped apart with claws and teeth and scissors and knives, and it took forever because the pens themselves were encased in what might have been a diaper or some sort of cleaning cloth that was like Tyvek. I could not cut it or tear it, and it was taped, and it was just driving me crazy because I couldn't get it open, and I wanted to see what these beautiful pens were. I wasn't sure when looking at the image whether they were Parker 51s or they were Parker 51 specials. And it turns out only one was a special. And what makes the 51 special is they don't have a gold nib. They have a steel nib. Now I can hear you saying, what difference does it make? It really doesn't make a difference when it comes to a 51 because a 51, the nib can't flex really, and there's probably no real difference between a steel nib and a gold nib when it comes to 51. Some people can tell me what the difference is, but in terms of writing with it and using it, there's not really a difference. So this was the only 51 special. You can tell it's a 51 special because of the black Tassie or whatever jewel, the black jewel. Has this nice blue color. It also has a chrome cap rather than the more brushed luster-like cap. The other pens were this one, which I just told you about, the Vacuumatic fill, a burgundy aerometric fill with a really broad nib, very much like this one. So in my mind, it seems like these two pens perhaps could have been owned by the original buyer. Perhaps that's the kind of nib they liked. I don't know, but it's just, they're broader than normal. This one, the 51 Demi, which is slightly thinner, slightly shorter than the standard aerometric, had a slightly finer nib, but anyway, that was there. And then this one, what kind of nib does this one have? I haven't really tried it because I haven't filled it. This isn't overly fine either. These all could have been owned by a single person that went down to their store and bought one of these things. So often what I do when I buy any pen that I have a duplicate of, I think, okay, well, how can I make the pen I want to keep better? How do I improve it? So enter Grace. And this big, broad, fat nib on this one, I thought, I'm going to give this to Grace. So I unscrewed this, put that aside, unscrewed the barrel, put that aside, put Grace on top of this, put this on top of that, and now I have sort of a new pen with Grace's name on it. And I thought, well, gee, I kind of like this, but Grace now has a louder voice or a breast augmentation or something. Her personality is completely changed, and my earbuds are falling out of my head here. Sorry. It's like her personality has changed. She's suddenly bubbly and she's the life of the party, and she shows up with her new boobs, and her confidence is up there, and she's talking a mile a minute. And I think, well, okay, Grace is now a different person. Now, Grace, the actual person, I can't imagine that there's a lot of Grace M. Bretternitzes in the world. I could probably find out whether she was a shy, flat-chested dame or not. But Grace chose a very fine nib when she went to buy her pen. And she did not choose this pen. She could have, Grace could have been to the store and asked the guy to show her a Burgundy 51, and she chose this one, the one with the fine nib. Maybe that's because she writes really small and she talks really quiet, and she has a flatter chest than her schoolmates or something. I don't know. So she chose this one. Now, for those women out there that are thinking I'm being sexist or whatever, okay. I know that some women get boob jobs and some don't. So I'm not saying all women want big boobs. Some women have them. But anyway, it just seems that when I suddenly put this pen, this nib from this pen that I bought onto Grace's pen, her personality just completely changed. And I thought, gee, I kind of like this, but I don't know whether I do. I don't know whether this nib is an improvement to the original one. The jury is still out on this. This one is really, really, this would make a lot of people happy. Perhaps even Grace might have found it pleasant, but Grace bought this nib, so I don't think Grace would have liked it. But people that like to write boldly, big smooth nib might really, really like this nib. I don't think I do. So I may take this nib out of Grace's pen, put it back on the pen that I bought the other day, put Grace's finer nib in here, and I think I'll keep it this way, which means this one with the big broad nib is available for sale to you, as is this pen with actually a broader nib is available to you. I think I'm going to keep this one because I have to fix it before I sell it. This one, the demi size, I think I want to keep this for the moment, just because demis are not very common. I only have a couple. This is one of them. I think I have 3, counting this one. And it's kind of interesting to, you pick it up thinking it's this pen, and clearly it's smaller. The shell is smaller, shorter. The barrel is shorter. The cap is shorter. The clip is shorter. The pen is narrower. And the first thing I think is my hands got bigger. Donald Trump, no one has better hands than I do. I've got perfect hands. But it's like, it's not, I don't think the pen got smaller. I just think my hands got somehow bigger suddenly when I write with these. And it's an interesting experience. But do I need this one? Because I have a gray one that essentially can give me that same experience without. But we'll keep it for the moment. This might be for sale though soon. But if any of you are interested in maybe a broad nibbed Aerometric 51 or a broad nibbed Aerometric 51 Special in blue, actually quite a broad nib, send me an email. Grace, oh, this is Grace. Grace has her old, Grace is back to her old shy self. Which makes sense. That's how she arrived in my hands. That's how I've known her. And it's like seeing someone wearing makeup, who normally doesn't wear makeup, and suddenly, oh my God, did you just slaughter a animal and your lips are red with blood, or are you wearing makeup? And it just didn't fit. Grace isn't a broad nibbed kind of gal. So again, these things are fascinating. These pens are fascinating. They make your hands look bigger. They make your writing look smaller. They make your head think of things that you normally would never, ever, ever think about. When was the last time I thought of breast augmentation as a subject? I mean, I do every once in a while. I get someone wanting to friend me on Instagram, and I open it up, and it's clearly a scam. It's some picture of a very shapely young lady who has one profile picture, and the picture is almost entirely boobs. You know, there's a face here and a waist here, and then there's boobs, and usually some sort of Tyvek top that is straining under the immense pressure that's being pushed against it from her clearly augmented and inflated boobs. I think about it then, but I don't think about it often. And Grace, you know, here I thought this big broad nib would be really, really fun. And somehow I have a couple of 51s that have big broad nibs, and I really don't like them. They seem to go against what I think a 51 should be. A 51 is a Euclidean pen. It makes a line that doesn't vary. It makes a point with a point that looks like a point, a little dot. It doesn't have variation in the line it makes. It's very mathematically pure. And when I see a big dot representing a point, which is supposed to be of no dimension or of limited dimension, it doesn't seem right. I also find, you know, I'm a chatty Cathy. I also find broad nibs really hard to write with because I can very easily rotate the pen in my hands as I'm drawing, especially as I'm drawing, and look what happens. Nothing. I just rotate it a little bit, and I can do that with any pen. Any fountain pen will have that problem. You know, I can take this pen, rotate it to the side, it's not going to write either. But because it has a nib that I can see, I always know which way is right side up. So I easily don't accidentally rotate it in my hand. I can easily, you know, find its correct position. So a 51 with a fine nib, though, because it's fine, it even when you rotate it, it writes. But broad nibs don't, or stub nibs don't. But a fine nibbed pen of any sort almost writes regardless of how you rotate it. So anyway, again, it's just fast. I find it fascinating. Maybe you don't. Who knows what you find fascinating? You know, in your pen collection, the things that fascinate you might be price stickers, mint in the box, new old stock. Perfectly mint color and plating wear and all that kind of stuff. Maybe that makes you smile. I'm sorry to hear that because writing with the pen, filling it up with ink and actually using it is really 99% of the pleasure of having a collection of pens is the use of it. And just looking at them is just pales by comparison to using them. But if you're one of these people, I mean, this is a very seductive pen. This is, you know, a big broad nib 51 is seductive like a wet noodle Waterman #2 nib is. You want to play with it. You want to add ink to the paper because it just lays out so much of it. But I just don't, I find them less, I actually find them hard to control. They sort of want to slide around a little bit more than I like. But anyway, can I hang up now? Can I go back to work? I've got a lot of jobs that I'm ignoring. Yeah, Grace, I'm glad you're back. The makeup didn't work on you. The breast augmentation was not your thing. Your Dale Carnegie class of how not to be a wallflower. You look better as a wallflower. You have grace, like your name, and poise as you stand whispering in the corner of the party. You with the makeup and the boob job just wasn't you. Bye.